Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show. I'm your host, Matthew Head. And in this episode, I'm talking to Dr. Helen Ross. She's a special education needs specialist and founder of Helen's Place, which provides support and teaching for families. She's a former teacher in SENCO, and after 10 years of working in schools, she moved into consultancy and research. She's a published writer with 8 peer-reviewed publications to her name, as well as being featured in others. I'll put links to Helen's Place, as well as other things we talk about in the show notes, which will be available at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Welcome to the show, Helen.
Thank you. That was all spot on.
Yeah, I'm glad my research worked. What I wanted to kick it off with today, really, was I saw that you used to be a teacher in maths and French, 2 subjects I wouldn't have thought would necessarily bolt together.
No. I did mechanical engineering with French at uni.
With French. Okay.
Yeah, well, it meant I did it at Sheffield. So right. I was going to be a chartered engineer by 30. I failed miserably at that. It wasn't, who knew engineering wasn't, I'm going to sound like I'm in something now. Engineering was a bit boring.
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't have French, I had electrical engineering.
Oh, God, no. No, I took a job in control systems. It was completely the wrong. Yeah, it was the wrong journey for me. No, it was awful. But so I did my 3rd year in France. I did the French bit so I could go to France for a year. And Chef Uni had a partnership with INSA in Lyon, which is like one of the Grande Écoles in France. It's like proper smart people go there. And then I was like, why am I here? Genuinely, I felt thick as 2 short ones. But it meant, so then I did engineering and it kind of sucked for me. I think it wasn't right.
Yeah.
Did teach training in sunny Barnsley.
Yes.
It was awesome. I loved it. It was awesome. But then because I trained in modern languages because I like talking and I speak French, German and Spanish. But because there's a shortage of maths teachers, they were like, you've got an engineering degree, teach some maths. So I did. And it was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because I could see the engineering degree and so, that's right at the bottom of your list of things. And it did it amused me because
a little non sequitur.
Yes, going to like Sheffield where it's like mixed with French, and I went to a modern university where it's mechanical and electrical. We just did engineering, no other stuff, just fatter engineering. And I was like, the difference.
Like the French was a bolt on though. I did all the stuff. You had to do all the stuff that the IMechE needed. So
the accredited degree course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it reminds me I must get on with being a chartered engineer. So as a dyslexic person, I always struggled to learn modern languages at school. It's kind of really struggled with. I did French and I did Spanish and did 1 lesson German just to try it out. But I always really, really just couldn't get my head around it at all. How did you find learning modern languages?
Patterns. It's like maths, it's patterns.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love it. It comes with the proviso. The reason I like languages is 2 reasons. I'm a nosy cow and I hate not knowing what's going on around me.
Yes.
So being nosy and liking talking for me is like a huge intrinsic motivation. It really is. Like I wish it wasn't, but it genuinely is. And then when I was in year 9, I was 14. Yeah. And my dad moved to Paris for a couple of years with work. Like he was just on secondment out with a company and he worked in one of the suburbs of Paris. So I went over to France. I was like really cross. I was like, Mum, why can't we move to France? And Mum was like, your brother's doing his exams, Helen. I was like, I don't care what you can imagine, like 14-year-old stropping hormonal, gross, horrid me. And so we went over to France quite a lot and I picked up quite a lot just being there and couldn't possibly talk to my parents. I had to go and find friends. And I did
speak French.
Yeah, well, that was it. And like, I learned stuff. Yeah, I just learned it by talking and stuff. And then I did German at school because German was my easy A level because it was easier than it was just, I enjoyed it.
Right.
And then, it's just patterns. And I worked in Italy, like you do like Eurocamp type stuff when you're in uni holidays, people do that.
Yeah.
I did that. I wanted to go to the beach and be paid for it. So I did. And
it sounds like a good way of working.
It was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. It was very lucky. so lucky. Like, I realised the privilege and the luck, but equally, I worked insanely hard. And I learned Italian, and I bought a dictionary. I would sit and read the dictionary. And I do read the dictionary. I am such a saddo. I am so curious. I'm so nosy. And if you speak French, like Italian and Spanish are all Latin-based languages, so it comes mostly. I had a Dutch boyfriend, so I picked up some Dutch because it's a bit like German and English. And so it's patterns. Languages are patterns, and I'm a nosy cow.
Okay.
Combine that.
I'm not going to ask you how to train people to be a nosy cow, but what sort of patterns are you looking for? If somebody's listening to this and thinks it's all patterns, but I don't get it, how do you what's the gateway into that?
The root of the word. There's a proper term for it. I can't. I think the root of the word. Yeah. So, like, if you can look at like prefixes and suffixes, because a lot of the Latin-based prefixes and suffixes in English are the same as they are in other languages. So you kind of use those to help you morphology, to help you bring things together,
right,
and kind of make sense different bits of words. And then, like, French is kind of English with a funny accent. If you look at the elements of words.
Now I'm thinking of the guy from Hello, Hello.
I used to love Hello, Hello. It's awesome. It's like, good morning.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Cool. But it's fascinating, like, because English has got a Latin lexis. So, like, our words, a lot of our words are Latin based. Yeah. Obviously, not all of them, but our grammar is much more Germanic in its form. So we're kind of quite a cool hybrid language from which to branch out. And it's just like chunking things down. And like French and Spanish verbs, you have the stem of the verb, and you just look at what to do. You kind of look at what to do. I say that thing is, it isn't for everybody, but I don't know. I just figure if I can do maths patterns, languages are patterns.
I could see the thinking, and I'd have to go and have a look at things again, because I can do maths, having an engineering degree.
Spanish or Italian is probably Spanish or German is probably a good way to go forward, because they're quite regular languages. French is a bit silly like English. The spelling's a bit daft. But...
yes. So would you, at that point, did you know you were dyslexic because you were a young girl sort of dealing with all the languages? When did you get picked up on that?
When I was 17, A-level maths.
17, A-levels, okay.
Yeah, it was mechanics, because I did like a maths where you did like half pure and half mechanics, or half pure and half, like, is it discrete maths or something they called it? Anyway, but yeah, so half my maths was pure, and that was fine.
Yeah.
Mechanics, obviously, it's like the physicsy maths, so the questions are quite wordy, and then you've got to kind of go read it and go, make sense of what it's on about, draw your little force diagram, and then do the maths. And it was I could not. I literally bawled in class because I could not read the question. And my teacher, Mrs. McConaughey, I big her up all the time. Like 1999, Myton School, Warwick. Like, she was amazing. She's such a lovely woman. She would literally be like, come and put a hand on my shoulder. Helen, shut up. I'm like, but I can't read the question. Like, proper. And it's hard to believe I can be a little bit dramatic. But actually, I was quite distraught by this. It was awful because I felt really stupid. And she'd be like, just read it out loud to yourself. And reading stuff out loud helped, and it helps. It continues to help. And because my mum had done a load of stuff on adult literacy at the college in Lem, I don't know exactly what she did, but she and Mrs. McConaughey like put their heads together, and then we went over to like Great Malvern in the hills and got me assessed by this really clever lady. And I read my report. I found my report not long ago, and I read it all through, and it's like, oh, Helen is quite anxious. Oh, Helen's quite a worrier. Helen likes to know structures. And I'm like, no, I was 17 and nothing's changed. Like, I'm anxious. I'm insanely worried as a human being. So,
is that a little bit of ADHD or something else creeping in with the dyslexia, or? Probably.
I'm saving it for an assessment, but then our tumble dryer broke and then our washing machine broke. So, apparently we're supposed to have household appliances, and it's more important than getting me assessed.
Clean clothes, might be useful.
Especially with a 3-year-old,
yes. I can see why the washing machine is key piece.
It's quite useful. Equipment. And 2 Labradors who are gross. They're down there. They might bark at some point as well.
Okay. Getting a Labrador cameo. Okay.
Oh, they're good dogs.
So, did you then? How did the sort of step into, I'm really struggling with this, then did somebody steer you towards getting an ed psych assessment, the school or the college you were at?
No, so I don't know exactly.
Okay.
It was my mum and my maths teacher, and I don't really remember the sort of preamble. I know we went to the doctor. I have it in mind, and I wonder if it was because Dad had medical insurance with his company, and I wonder if they got it for free. I honestly don't know, or like you had to have a doctor's referral to have it covered on the insurance. I don't know. But I remember the assessment. I remember doing the bit where you had to make all the patterns and getting in a right strop because I couldn't do it. Like, obviously, I looked at the outcomes and I could do it. I was just going because I couldn't do the hard one.
I see. You couldn't do all of it, but you. Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Again, hard to believe. But yeah, I remember doing the assessment. It was really weird. The room was really dark. That's what honestly sticks in my head. It was like an old Victorian house in Malvern, which is so pretty. Yeah. Dark. So miserable.
Bizarre, yeah. I did. Well, I'd done mine as a 6-year-old and then did it as a 25-year-old, 26-year-old. Oh, wow. Went to uni because you needed to for your
the DSA thing.
That's the DSA. That was the word I was looking for. So you needed it for that. You did a whole morning worth of assessment. Your brain is like on fire by the end of it, isn't it?
It's exhausting.
It just hurts.
It's so hard. I had a kid round because I assess in this space. So like, there's like quite a lot of table on my left, and like there's a sofa and stuff. This is outdoors in our garden. We're so lucky this office space. God, I love it. It was the saving grace of our sanity in lockdown as well, because I didn't have to talk to my husband. But like, kids come. So I had a kid on Thursday.
Okay.
Year 6, so she was 10 and a half. She was frazzled, bless her. She was such a nice kid. But she went home and I was like, get your mum to buy you McDonald's. You deserve it. Full on as a process.
It is, yes. Yes, because of course, not only have you had it yourself, you are now doing it from the other side. So it's good to ask a bit of a 2-part question. But first of all, when you did the assessment at 17, what sort of cogs clicked into place for you as you looked back as a young person?
I think for me, it gave me a reason for stuff. And I say this to parents as well, like, I felt really stupid at school, and I'm not stupid. Of course, rationally, I'm not stupid, but it's that whole like self-talk thing. I felt thick as 2 short ones because I couldn't make sense of stuff. And I still feel thick when I have to read. I hate it. I hate reading. I'm supposed to get that Orcam text. I'm supposed to read to that. And I'm like, I don't want to read to it. It's going to laugh at me. It's a piece of computer stuff. It's not going to laugh at me. No and judgment. I need to do it because I need to know how it works. But I'm like, what was really interesting. It was really interesting finding my report again. I haven't got all the standard scores, which kind of annoys me from my professional point of view, but it's just how they did it, back in 1999.
Right, yeah.
They just didn't like different formats and stuff.
Yeah. It's
really interesting because all of my processing speeds and my memories are like just within low average ranges. So like a standard score of kind of 89, between 85 and 89, I would guess, which is, it's not bad, but when elements of my profile are up at like 138, it's not surprising that it's that discrepancy. And so that for me, and now every now and then I need to go back and look at it, because the reason I can't process stuff and I'm a bit slow is because I'm a bit slow at processing stuff. It's not that I'm stupid. I need people to like, I had to slow down. Mikhail from Orcam, I had a meeting with him the other day. I was like, stop talking. Just let me write. I was writing something down. And I just was like, give me, and he's gracious. He's really gracious. Like, he knows because he gets it, or he gets it because I've told him. No, exactly. And I've got colleagues that I work with from Swansea Uni on a project, and like Jennifer, my project lead there, she's just gorgeous. And like, what I think has been really helpful for me is that actually I can say, I need you to speak more slowly or give me a moment because of X, Y, Z. Like, I'm slow at processing, or I'm really rubbish at reading, or whatever. And people, I don't care. Like, and I think I'm 40, and I think it's taken me to 30s, 30 odd to, I just don't care what people think of me in that respect. Like, I know rationally I'm not stupid.
Yes.
If I need people to do stuff more slowly, I will just tell them. And yeah, there's imposter syndrome. Of course there is. I'm like, I've had a couple of really exciting emails this week. Imposter syndrome kicks on. I'm like, oh my God, why would they ask me to do that? I'm really stupid. And then it's like, just shut up, Helen, and look at your CV.
Yes.
So the good stuff is that I can kind of step back and go, actually, no, I'm not an idiot. The flip side is you don't spend 17 years at school feeling thick and all of a sudden not feel wobbly about yourself as well.
No, definitely not. I think having not had that kind of experience where I didn't know what it was.
Oh, bless you. That's hard.
Because I knew at 6. So as long as I can remember, I'm a dyslexic person. But you still feel like you're thick. Actually being a person who doesn't know or doesn't realise there's something different about them and then finding out at 17 doesn't help all the kind of the stuff that goes on before. And
especially being a teenage girls are really like, oh, you couldn't pay me enough money to go back to being a teenage girl. It was horrible. Like the insecurities and the anxieties. And, I'm a child of the 90s. I grew up in the 90s. And there wasn't all the social media crap then. I'd have ended up in a funny farm, I think. And I saw friends really suffer with eating problems and all the rest of it. And that was relatively straightforward. Now I think it's awful.
Yeah. Yes. No, I can imagine. Yeah, it's not good. And I don't know how quite a few teenagers cope with all the social media pressure.
No, I'm working with a kid at the moment that I tutor. I've known her for 4 or 5 years. I've known the family. I've worked with all of the kids. It's so nice. And I'm getting passed down. And this girl, they've had to do for their speaking and listening for English, they had to do a speech, and she wrote about the perils of social media. And one of the questions I asked her was the whole lip, pumpy filler thing. Do you kids want that? And she's 15. And she's like, oh yeah, God, all my friends really want it. I'm like,
what?
But what?
Yeah.
15 years old and they feel like they're not enough. Love Island has got so much to answer for.
Yes.
We watched a little bit of it last night. My mother-in-law likes it.
Oh, right.
Now I know why I don't watch it.
No. But you think, just to sort of steer it back to neurodiversity, that
the anxieties.
You're 17, you feel like you can't read the question in your mechanics exam. You got to draw a free body diagram and do the calculation. And you
free body diagram. That was the term. I couldn't remember the word.
So you know that, but you just can't read it. Let alone I could almost hear the TikTok voice or whatever, such and such in my class gets upset because they can't read. And then you find out you're dyslexic. And then there's all of that. It's luckily the only positive thing about it, I guess, not the only positive thing, but is at least you can find like-minded people now on social media. You think where we've connected over social media originally. And
we only met in person at the dinner the other week.
Yeah, exactly. So there is that side of it. So if you do find out and you're under all the pressure, then hopefully you can find places that are suitable and help you out so you can use it for a good thing rather than a load of pinging back and forth, unfortunately. But we are standing like a bunch of really old people now complaining about social media.
But then social media, the amount of work I get via social media, I can't really complain about it.
Yes.
I think what Natalie Brooks does sort of on, her dyslexia, I can't remember what her thing is called, but it's adult dyslexia, her community, the hub.
Yes.
Brilliant. What she does is amazing.
Yes.
And I've got Instagram. My life's a bit boring, so nobody really cares about my photos because I'm a bit boring. I really am. It's Labradors and me out on my bike. That's my Instagram because I was born with pedals on my feet. But the work that people like her do is just epic. And I think social media can be really powerful. And I think as well, people are just more aware of it. In schools in Wilshire, we've got a dyslexia-friendly schools project that we're running with the local authority. Yours truly here is going to be evaluating. I've done the first bit of evaluation. I'm going to finish it off probably after Christmas, depending on the timelines. And so there's just a lot more people talking about neurodiversity, which if you're a kid who's on a wobbly journey at school, at least somebody somewhere in your school will be able to talk to you if it's a member of staff or another kid. I think there is there is more awareness, which means more people talk and it opens. There's more sense of solidarity, hopefully.
Yes, I think so.
I hope so.
I think in the couple of years that I've had the website and in this podcast, the difference in the voice about neurodiversity that I've seen, even in them sort of 2 years where I'd be more turned on to what goes on in the wider world on social media and just in general, it is, you think like the dyslexia thinking is now a thing you can add to your LinkedIn profile and all that kind of thing.
I haven't done that. I probably should.
Yeah, I did it. You should do it. But like that kind of stuff where now it's a positive thing to add that to your profile. So it's really interesting how it's started to change. And then, I mean, this podcast is shamelessly for the younger me. So hopefully somebody who was struggling like I was when they were younger hears people like yourself and me talking and get some inspiration from it too.
I hope so. If I find my mate who did all my copy on my website, she watched the interview of me with Darren Clark.
Yeah.
She's like, "You're inspirational." I'm like, "I'm not inspirational. You're inspirational." I struggle with that. I really struggle with that.
Yes, I think somebody pointed out to me quite a few episodes ago that actually this sort of the inability to take compliments and realize what you actually do is something dyslexic people tend to want to do. Like
what you do is absolutely phenomenal.
Oh,
You're
well,
brilliant. Right? You took that very well as a compliment. Nice one.
Yes, yeah, I try sometimes.
Apparently, I'm very trying all the time. All the time.
So, just going to bring it back to your assessment because I like to ask people.
No, go for it.
You got assessed. We've talked about assessment. What did you change after that? How did you then okay, do I use this software or this technique? How did you then able to read your mechanics stuff to know what to put in the question? Because imagine once you'd read the question, free body diagram, a few calculations, bang, it's done.
Yeah, I read stuff aloud.
It was that?
At the time I read it aloud. And if I'm reading and I haven't got like a computer reader, I read aloud. It somehow turns it multisensory for me and that works. And I think it slows me down as well. So I have to read each word.
Okay.
Weirdly, I find reading in French or Spanish is easier because I know I have to read every word. It makes me focus better.
Interesting. Oh, I see.
Yeah. It makes me go slower because I know I can't skip. But now, like, the Windows read aloud function. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I love it. Like, I've got proofreading to do in a bit. I've got a big wad of reports to sort out. And read aloud. Read aloud function is my friend. They gave me there was a mind mapping software thing that I got. That doesn't work for me. I'm not bothered about mind maps. I'm a bullet pointer. So I just do bullet points in Word or whatever when I write. But
I must admit I'm a bullet pointer on a notepad. To be honest though, I got introduced to mind maps, which were probably spider diagrams at school, and I'm still jaded from it. So as much as people have turned me onto them as an adult, I'm like, I can't get over it.
No, they don't particularly. But I like bullet points because they're in order. And if you do it on the computer, like you chop and change. This report I've got to write for Orcam. I've done my bullet points, and I'll go into each bullet point and plan it a bit more. And the planning process might take me ages. Writing it up, it's easy. That's the easy bit. The thought process is more tricky, but
yeah. I think, and it's what works for you, doesn't it? There's lots of different tips and tricks.
Absolutely.
And Dragon, naturally speaking, was the thing that got me through. You need to talk the reports out because I couldn't do them otherwise. I'd have never got them done.
It's funny. I hated it. I can't hold a sentence in my working memory.
Okay.
So it just doesn't, I get halfway through and I'm like, what am I on about? Whereas if I write it down, I can see it.
Yeah. I wish there was Bluetooth headsets were more affordable back then because I would pace, but have to pace in the length of the headsets.
Oh, I see.
Do it all standing up.
Bless you. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I do it now. I was practicing my intro for this before you come online, and I'm pacing around a conservatory. So it's interesting what things work because that was my thing was trying to get it out of my head, but clearly your working memory falls over. So giving you a software like Dragon, and I went to uni in Scotland, so I had a few dyslexic friends on my course who hated it because it didn't get their accent as well as
it didn't get my accent. And at the time, I was more Leamington than I am now.
Oh, right.
Spa is hardly like...
Oh, yes. Royal Leamington Spa. Yes.
Exactly. Like, you're not far away from there, are you? Like, it's not exactly difficult to understand, but it couldn't understand how I spoke, and it just irritated me. So I got annoyed, and then it didn't work anyway, so I just didn't bother.
I think it'd be interesting to hear what other people's experiences are, but for me, training it to how I speak was worth it for the results I got out of it at the end. I could do the brain dump, get something on a page that I can edit. Even now, you mentioned about being a chartered engineer, I'm struggling with the chartered engineer applications because I just can't get on the page what it wants. So you now obviously do all that assessment stuff in your own business. Now, this is really interesting because I've not had somebody who's done assessments on it. So,
okay.
How do you find that from the other side? I imagine you do some sort of training, and we're going to get to your many, many qualifications later. I run out of space to write them down.
Oh, God, no.
But people should check Helen's website out. There's a big, long list on it.
Geek. I'm a massive geek.
So, how is it from your side of the fence doing the assessment as a dyslexic person, where you've actually got the experience of being assessed, and now you were doing the training, and I'm like, oh, this is what they're looking for in the background. This is what the principle is behind this.
I absolutely love it. I did my dyslexia, my level 7, they call it, the course after I'd done my PhD. It was more stressful because you had to find a placement school. I was lucky that my husband put me in touch with a school that he knows nearby us, so I ended up actually building a really nice relationship with the school, and then COVID hit, and it's a lovely little school actually. Really, I might send my boy there, but so the assessing's cool. What's really nice about it is you get to give people answers. Like, I've made 2 mums cry in the last 2 days.
Oh my God, right.
Like, genuinely, the girl that I assessed on Thursday, I was like to her mum, she was a little bit like dewy-eyed, and I was like, you're right. The worst thing to say to somebody is, you were right. She creased, I creased, and we were all like, oh, it's okay. And I think for me, that's the thing that always sticks in your mind, is that you get to give people answers. Like running the tests it's not particularly demanding to run the test, like to take somebody through the tasks. It's exhausting. It's really full on. Like, you kind of need to sit and lie in a dark room after you've done it. It's full on. But it's knitting everything together, kind of, this bit links to, so this bit of wobble here links to that bit of wobble there, but this strength helps that. And it's that process is absolutely fascinating. I love it. It's absolutely fascinating. I never thought I particularly would be bothered about it. But it's a privilege. It's a real privilege. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
So talk me through a sort of how a typical session would work. If somebody's listening and they're thinking, I might get assessed with dyslexia, I need to go see an ed psych. What are they going to expect?
Well, I'm not an ed psych, so I'm a specialist assessor.
Yes, of course, yes.
No, it's all right. It's slightly different. I was talking to an ed psych yesterday, and she said that they're like the GPs. Mm-hmm. And then you've got specialists like me who have all the kind of very specific knowledge of dyslexia and learning difficulties.
Yes.
And therapists. And so they're kind of, so you go to an assessment, they'll do... I have to do certain tests because of professional accreditation. So like, we'll look at kind of your verbal and non-verbal problem solving. So you do tasks like you'll explain words, you'll finish sentences to build concepts together. Yeah. You make like reproduce pictures using little diamondy tiley things.
Yes.
Because I use the RIT. That's the test I use. There's another one, but I can't remember what it's called. You do reading, writing, spelling, but you do all kind of different aspects of reading. So you'll read single words untimed. You do like a quick fire sight word recall just to see how you process information from the back of your head. You do reading fluency, just look at your speed. And then you do a comprehension test. There's various different comprehension tasks. I'm really careful what tests I use because I always like to say to people, you've got this thing that takes up to this amount of time and you've got 2 of them. So the particular set of tests I choose, I use them because I can be very precise with it. Particularly with reading, like there are other reading tests that are good, but you don't know exactly how long it will take. And I just like to know, because if you're making a kid do something they don't like, I like to tell them exactly how long it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then you'll do like phonological processing, so how your brain kind of deals with sound and chunks it down, how you manipulate sound, because if you can't hold on to sounds, phonemes in your mind, then doing spelling, reading, writing, it becomes quite tricky, because if you can't hold the sound, you can't link the letters to the sounds. That's the kind of and you do things like verbal processing, so it's, I think, physically, and it is literally in the back of your head, and then it's processing information out the back of your head, getting it so you can say it. And I always say to kids, like, it's that feeling, we're looking at how you go on with that feeling of knowing you've got a really good pair of shoes in your wardrobe and you've got one of them, you're trying to find the other one, and you know it's there, but you just can't quite put your hands on it. And it's that idea with dyslexic people, quite often word finding is tricky. That word is on the tip of your tongue and you just can't quite find it.
Yes.
Like, knowing you've got a good pair of shoes, just can't find the second one. And then you do writing, so like copying, writing from memory, composition, because it just uses slightly different bits of your brain. So if you don't read writing, spelling at the moment, it's just a single word spelling test, but in written tasks you talk about the spelling, because it quite often is impacted when you're doing everything at once. Yeah. And various elements of maths, depending on what's going on with somebody's maths, just to see if it's a maths thing or a dyslexia thing affecting maths.
Is that kind of like almost like a dyscalculia kind of check?
Yeah, just unpicking what you can, exactly that. So what else do I do? I've got an assessment in front of me. I can literally look at the list of tests. I've talked about that. Memory. Working memory.
Yeah.
The irony that is the one I forgot. It's not lost on me. So it's all the different kind of verbal memory and visual memory and stuff like that. And then you knit it together and hopefully understand, because you never tell parents anything they don't know in these assessments. It's always stuff that they know.
Yeah, it's almost confirmation for them, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously we come through all these things and you sort of try and knit it together. And I remember getting the educational profile, isn't it, with the sawtooth, classic dyslexia one rather than the flat one. And you're saying you always say to parents, because I assume you're always dealing with younger people. Do you do
generally,
anything else? Yeah. And then once you've got this all and you say, I don't know, in one place, say, I remember verbal reasoning was great, spelling was poor, reading out loud was poor, things like that. This was great, doing patterns was not, and all that kind of stuff. Do you then start recommending things that they should do and techniques for it?
Yeah. So you have like I've got like a massive, great big bank of, it is kind of bullet pointed recommendations. But obviously, like, different kids you meet need different things. So you recommend a whole load of different things. And I would say to parents and families, like, it's like a menu. Some stuff I do, you're going to just think, what are you on about?
Yeah.
It didn't work. But especially with tech, like, I always talk to people about tech when they're here if I can, because it just kind of makes more sense. And I always try and score up as I go to kind of do the numbers so I can show people my work. I've got a spreadsheet that's like a working document.
Okay.
Yeah, I love a spreadsheet. I do. I love a spreadsheet.
Personal engineering degree.
Oh, sad. No, honestly, I'm really sad. But like, if you can talk people through when they're there in front of you and you've got them physically, it just kind of makes it easier. So yeah, and I talk through, like, I think this might be good, is that, and you have a little bit of a chat, and then you incorporate whatever the discussion is into the recommendations you write as well, because there are some fairly generic ones that schools can do, like, don't make people copy off the board and don't make them read on the spot, and that's generic. That should be common sense, but
yeah, that's the minimum requirement, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you kind of look, some kids need like a wobble cushion to help them channel their inner wobble, and like,
there's
lots and lots of different things that can be useful, but they aren't necessarily for every child.
No, and that's the interesting, and something I kind of sort of say quite often, no two dyslexic people are the same. So actually as we were discussing earlier with the dragon thing, not one technique that works really well for one person might be a complete utter nightmare for another. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's that's where you come in, is that with your assessment and then your recommendations.
I hope so.
Tailoring it to
and you always, you always end up. I end up with quite a lot of phone calls from people like months after the fact as well, just checking stuff, and that's cool. Like, I've somewhere in my head got a brain, so people might as well use it.
Somewhere in your head. Well, considering you have a PhD as well as lots of other qualifications and have written peer-reviewed papers, I think the brain works fairly well.
I just don't know where it is. Lost the jar where it's stored.
Are you one of these people who's highly qualified but can't find the car keys in the morning?
Don't know what you're talking about. Andy, my husband, he made me have a bowl by the door, and he's like, "Put your keys in the bowl." Yeah, we have a bowl. If I don't put my keys in the bowl, it all goes very, very wrong.
It must be. I have standard process for that. Like the car keys are in the same drawer with my wallet, watches on top of the drawer, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And if I'm staying somewhere else, the bedside table has everything laid out. It looks super kind of.
Wallet, phone, keys, key possessions in life. Yeah.
So I have to have that, and stuff has to be in standard places because for some reason, I'm blind if it's not in the same place.
I couldn't find my water bottle in the dishwasher this morning. And it is in there. I'm like, it's not in. Oh, okay.
It is in the dishwasher. Yeah. Is that kind of thing where your husband walks up and goes, "What, this one here?" and grabs the thing that's immediately in front of your nose?
Yeah, all the time. He's really patient and really gracious. Can't knock him in the slightest.
Patience is definitely a virtue.
Oh, sainthood.
So how did you get about from your teaching to then going to be a consultant researcher and studying a PhD? Was there a kind of epiphany moment for that sort of stuff?
Kind of. Obviously, I said before, I taught in Barnsley. Well, I started teaching because I was working in engineering, sank like a lead balloon, ended up signed off work for 6 months with depression.
Oh, no.
I'd been to South America by myself. And then the idea of going down to Leamington Spa from Sheffield for my friend's hen party, I was like, I can't go on the train. That was the place I was in at the time.
Oh, wow.
Horrible. Yeah, and there were days where I couldn't get out of bed. It was awful. And that is not me. So I did supply I had kind of thought about teaching, and I did supply at some complicated schools in Barnsley. My first ever day supply teaching was at Holgate School, and that was where they filmed the film Kes. And I had to ask the children to speak more slowly because I couldn't understand them. And I absolutely loved it. So teaching in Barnsley kind of was awesome. And then when I got my job, I was working in the Dearne Valley where all the miners' strikes kicked off. A place called Goldthorpe. And I really liked it, actually. I loved teaching there. It was a complicated old school, but the kids, it was at the time where a lot of edicts were coming out of Whitehall, and you're just like, they just didn't have a clue on the ground, the reality that kids were living and people were living. And when the ambient kind of literacy and numeracy levels of adults was, I think literacy was at the time level 5 national curriculum was the kind of working level of most people, and that would be like a low achieving year 6.
Right.
I think I can't remember exactly, but it was like basically a lot of people were working at the level of about an 11-year-old.
And they're full-blown adults,
yeah, exactly, because it was just it was such a complicated area, and I was like, these people in government, like, what are they on about? So I started looking a little bit at the people that got listened to and quoted and all the green papers and consultations and stuff, and I'm like, they're all Dr. this or Professor that. gonna get me one of them.
You're gonna have one of them names. Yeah.
So I didn't. There was free funding, or sort of supplementary funding for people to do a master's degree, and I did it at the Open Uni. So I got grants and stuff towards a master's degree in education.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. Having done engineering, I used to rip it out of like, oh, you're doing sociology. It's really yeah, it's not. And then I did that. And then me and Andy, we got married and went traveling around Peru, and we sat in lots of cafes, particularly in Cuzco. We met a load of English people in Cuzco. And there were some teachers that we met, and we ended up working with some missionaries, just kind of we just did a placement there and stayed for 3 months. And they were English, and we just chatted a lot. And I was like, no, I've got to do this. So I applied for a PhD at Bath Uni and Birmingham Uni.
Yeah.
Birmingham said no, they're lost. I'm not petty at all. But Bath said yes.
Not petty.
But actually it worked out. Bath said yes. So they made me do an MRes, which was a Master of Research Methods, which was absolutely the right thing to do, because you can't do engineering and then do sociology. That's just silly.
Yeah, it does feel like two very different things. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did social policy there, learned how policy happens and stuff. It was really cool. Then I did my PhD, and my supervisor, and my main supervisor, is a lady called Tina Skinner. She's epic and dyslexic. And cool. Then my second supervisor is a guy called David Skidmore, who, again, he's amazing. And he works in education. So I had an awesome team. And then I always knew that I wanted to get a PhD for academic credibility because of reading all these green paper things. And then I wanted to be a SENCO to get that professional credibility. So I did. And being a SENCO broke me. Like, I was medicated again, and I just thought, I can't do that to myself again.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but there's no point not being open about it. Other people aren't confident, are they? I'm quite happy to say. I was really quite bad with it. So then I dropped down to part-time at Stonehenge School, which, Stonehenge School, big it up, it was awesome. The only reason I left was because I didn't have time. That was like 4 years ago. I started working there part-time to do all like my dyslexia training and start on this journey towards self-employment and all the rest of it. And then in February, I got a call off. Orcam got in touch with me and were like, "Can you do some stuff?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then Georgina Durrant, she's brilliant. She's a special needs person. She works at Twinkle. She's given me a few boots up the bum over the last few months. So kind of Orcam gave me a boot up the bum. The local council here gave me a boot up the bum to just go, do you know what? You need to just stop teaching at school. So it's been about 4 years, but I've been fully self-employed, like doing no schoolwork since Easter. So that's quite early doors.
I guess it's, that at some point you need to take away the safety net to grow the thing you really want to do.
Yeah, exactly that. And like the calls, the last few months, I think having had that contact with Orcam,
yes,
kind of, it was a substantial boot up the backside to do something. And then because they phoned and because the local authority, there are so many other things that have subsequently happened. So it's been quite a mental year, 2022.
The joys of growing your own business. But it does sound like it's been pretty mad. And
a little bit.
It's one hell of a transition though. You go from having depression because engineering is not the field you want to be in.
No.
To through school, to PhDs, to being a SENCO and realising that's back in the same not so great place, to then walking through your own business. And now clearly it's growing quite a lot that you've had to drop the old PAYE employment. It's a hell of a trip in 10 years or whatever it was. So you've been on quite a few papers as well. What are your papers in mostly? And then how have you managed to publish 8 peer review papers, which is a hell of a lot of work rate?
So some of my papers were out of my PhD.
Ah, yes.
So 3.
Yep.
Yeah, 3 papers out of my PhD. I've got a couple of bits and bobs that have come from, I'm doing such a cool project with Swansea Uni. It's about climate change, but it's where I get to like flex my creative muscles because I'm the kind of education specialist there. So I invent like theoretical frameworks based on really cool findings and stuff.
Yeah.
And knit really bonkers things together. So there's a couple of papers I need to check. I wrote a paper and that's got to hopefully come out soon because my friend's submitting it for us.
You try to get up to the magic 10.
I hadn't even thought about that. I haven't really planned to be honest. And then, I did there's 3 out of my PhD. There's a couple out of Swansea, this UN CO2 project, which is, I love it. It's brilliant. And then I did some stuff over COVID. So I have a lot of my theories based around Bourdieu and this cultural capital and all the rest of it. And I did a paper maybe a year ago, or like a book chapter a year ago, where it's based on a light fitting. Right. And I was like, I'll show you. It's like it's from Wilco. Do you see that 3-bit light fitting?
Yes. So for the benefit of those in audio, it's a tall light fitting with a miniature reading lamp in the middle and then a big sort of dome lamp on the top.
The dome lamp where there's the three elements, three circles that knit together.
Yeah.
And so it was growing for months, this idea of I need things that knit stuff together. So one of my papers is kind of me writing a theory on the social world, and people seem to like it. Like, I've had really nice feedback on it. So modelling the social world, massive geek, but it's so exciting and it's so creative. I've done papers on dyslexia.
Yeah.
I've written a few book chapters that are more pragmatic, rather than theoretical. I like writing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's something that surprised me with doing this podcast is I meet a few dyslexic people who love writing, and it seems completely alien to me.
It's fun, isn't it?
But interestingly, the common thread I think that goes through it is you mentioned quite a few about being the thinker and the creative one, which is clearly something a dyslexic person will do. And I think that's the kind of the common thread that goes through it all, is that you are very much using your dyslexic strengths and you enjoy writing to make these papers happen.
Yeah, probably. I hadn't thought about it like that. I wish people could see my face. I've just looked at my own face and I'm putting some right faces there.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, like light bulb.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Because, I don't know, like, the idea for this framework, because Borgia's great.
Yeah.
And I knitted it together with this other dude called Jenkins. I can't remember his first name, but Mr. Jenkins, probably Professor Jenkins or somebody, I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah.
I can't remember. It's written down somewhere. And I was like, for me, it just didn't quite hit the spot. So an idea kind of grew. And it's what's been really cool with the Swansea project is because that really is very theory heavy.
Yeah.
The papers I write, to say I get to play sounds flippant. It's not. I get to go to town on geeking about theory. I absolutely love it. And
do you, when you're doing the theory, do you sort of float it and spin it around in your head and imagine how it works when you're quote unquote playing with theory of it?
I did. What, the light fitting one?
Yeah.
And I've kind of used the ideas around this light fitting thing with the Swansea project as well. And what really struck me is that nothing happened. And it's, for me, it's a life thing. Nothing in my life happens in isolation. Everything is interconnected. And so it's this, I think, is it Newton's laws of momentum?
Yeah.
Snooker balls.
Yes. Conservation of energy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So they either go completely apart, or you kind of hit them a bit more gently and they might move together, but be a bit dented.
Yeah.
And that thought process was in my head when I was looking at modelling the social world. And I've written something in a paper about Newton's laws.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what. And I think it was in the first one I did for UNCO2, because if you meet somebody and their way of doing life is different, but you get on, you're kind of going to clash a little bit, but then you muddle along.
Yeah.
That's conservation of energy and momentum and stuff.
Yeah. All these early laws. And again, that's a pattern spotting thing, isn't it? Which can be a dyslexic strength. So,
Yes, I agree.
You agree, yeah. You had thought of that before I said it.
No, I had not. I will take no credit for your work. Your work, not mine. But
the creativity, the pattern recognition, things like that seem to be a common thread, although we express it really differently. I'd feel super intimidated writing a paper, but because you love writing, you're like, yes, I've got this idea and I'm going to academicize it, if that's even a word.
I know. It is now. If it wasn't, it is now.
Go for it. So one thing I want to touch on before we sort of wind up with the questions I always ask you in the podcast is that you're associate chair for the Wilshire Dyslexia Association, as well as a trustee for the British Dyslexia Association. Yeah. So is that something you've joined into because of your work, or something you were doing beforehand when you realised you were dyslexic and just wanted to find more like-minded people?
I don't know. I think I did the Wilshire thing because I wanted to be useful. And I've been down here 10 years now, and I've worked with Caroline Folk Love her. She feeds me and she always looks after me when I go to her house. She is the person that does the work for the Wilshire Dyslexia Association. It is not me. She does the work, and I will always credit her because she's amazing.
Right. Okay.
So doing stuff with them, and I kind of ended up getting volunteered for stuff. I'm like, yeah, right then.
Yeah.
It sort of started me getting asked to do more stuff, and I'm a really safe pair of hands. If you want something doing, I will do it, and I will do it properly, because I don't do stuff like, I won't do stuff badly. It's not okay. Like, if people are relying on you, pull your finger around, do it properly. So, and because I'm very, very diligent. So I'm very dizzy, but I will work my backside. People know that. And so I've ended up kind of working through the ranks, but that's not quite how somehow around that. And I've ended up, a load of people said I should apply to be a trustee. Yeah. And then I ended up a trustee, and it's such a privilege. Like, it's a complicated process. It's not always easy, but it's really of value, I think. And because I've got it is quite a big platform, I suppose. And it means that I get to say stuff. And but the thing is, I'm rent-a-gob. I'm confident. I have moments where I think, every person has these, I'm rubbish, these kind of silly self-taught moments. But overall, I'm fairly confident in myself. I can step back and go, I've kicked bum at a lot of stuff. But I wobble and I struggle. I'm rubbish at reading. I hate it. Hate it. Will not tell kids at school I like reading, because I don't. I hate it. I won't lie to them. Yeah. I am pants at it. And I've had mental health problems, probably because I've worked so hard, because I'm dyslexic, so I've never felt enough. And if I can't, in my position of being like rent-a-gob, fairly high, I'm going to sound like a douche. I'm fairly high profile, I think, at some stuff I do. And that sounds really arrogant, and I don't want to. But if I can't, in that position, say that, then what's the point of doing anything? Like, I don't know. I think there's this idea that you can't see, you can't be it. And you can be successful, but sometimes you need to know a bit of the background story to get in there. And my background story is I've worked my backside off, and also there's been mental health costs. Yeah, there are mental health costs. And I think it's really important to be open about it, so that people know that it's not all rosy. Because I sound like my life's really good, but it's not always straightforward.
Yes. And I think it's important to give that kind of voice and the colour to it. And you've done all these things, and you can scroll through your website like I did in research. Oh, wow, Helen's got all of these qualifications and stuff. And
Helen's squirming.
yeah. Papers. And it's really, really impressive. But actually to be able to show what you need to do and what it sometimes costs, and highlighting how it's not this simple thing that you just go from beginning, is important as well. And I think it's great that you use your voice and platform and reach to be able to highlight all of it, rather than just the sort of, hey, I did this.
Sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah. And it's easy to, and I think it's important to show it all, I think, because the edited version is tricky.
Even the makeup-free, coffee-fueled version is currently the situation.
Right. So I'm going to round the podcast out now, and every guest gets, say, 3 rapid-fire questions at the end.
Oh, God.
They're quick questions from me. They don't need quick answers from you.
Okay.
So question number 1. What prejudice have you had about dyslexia that has been proven wrong?
That you're thick. If you're not well read, you're thick.
Yeah.
That's incorrect.
Okay.
I nearly swore.
I nearly had to edit. Okay, so question number 2. If an alien landed and asked you what dyslexia was, how would you explain it to them?
Problems filing information in your brain. Verbal information, sounds.
Yeah.
Which can make other things tricky.
Yes. Okay. And of course, the third question, seeing as this is a Dyslexia Life Hacks show, what is your favourite dyslexia life hack?
Read aloud. Windows read aloud.
Windows read aloud. Yes. I need to try that more, actually. I've got
it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, now I've got the latest version of Office. I should give it a go. But I have realised they're synonym checkers a lot better now as well. On the right click.
So good. Yeah. It makes me sound a lot cleverer than I am. I need to start using my OrCam more as well, because I've got an OrCam and I should probably use that to do stuff that isn't on the computer, but I just forget.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to add? And where can people find you?
You can find me. I tweet at Dr. Helen Ross. My website is helensplace.co.uk. If you Google Helen Ross dyslexia, you'll probably find me. I've got sort of blondish hair and a bit of an inane grin. Just thank you for having me. It's a privilege. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I will put links to Helen's website, Twitter and stuff in the show notes. So if you want to find her, go in there. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
No problem.
It's been really fun and actually gone in places I wasn't expecting to go. So it's been a very interesting conversation.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody else for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye for now.